What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 58 to the show we go. We have Ed Hand and myself, Andrew Parker, back as usual. It is the Zach Bryant episode. And if you don't know who Zach Bryant is, he's been in the Red Sox system for a few years, came over in trade back in 2019. I'm sure. And I'm actually going to ask Zach about that a little bit on into the show. But he's been in the system now for a few seasons, I guess 2021 to now. So it's a guy, though, that we want to get to know more of because obviously, coming off an injury, didn't get to see him last year, but I will ask you about coming back this year. But Zach, we appreciate you joining, and I just wanted to see. I know you're down at the complex. I know you're still rehabbing, coming back from an injury. But how are things going now as we are just a few weeks away from spring training for you?
Things are going well, man. I've been working up in my throwing and the throwing progression coming back from TJ. I'm out to 120 feet, so I won't be quite ready to go for spring training, but I will start like my mound progression around that time. I should be starting that in March. So hopefully getting in some games and some live ABs, hopefully by like May. That would be the goal. So I'm excited for spring training, man. I'm excited to see a lot of the guys that I haven't seen in over a year. Yeah, man, I'm ready to rock.
Is that
so you can't?
No, you go, Ed. I'll follow you
Okay.
up.
Okay, I was just gonna say, so you were traded to the Red Sox back in 2021, but you were drafted by the Cubs, right?
Yeah, in 2019, drafted by the Cubs and then traded to the Sox in 21.
Could you just take me through the day that you got drafted? Was it something that you were expecting to happen? And what was your family's reaction, as well as yours?
Yeah, so I mean, I knew I was going to get drafted. It was more of a question of whether it was going to be like late day 2 or day 3. But when it didn't happen day 2, I knew it was going to happen day 3, and I was hoping for obviously earlier in the day. And actually, I mean, my family was stoked, of course. But that day I was actually home alone because they took off to watch the draft and be there on day 2. So they couldn't take 2 days off in a row. So I was stuck at the house alone when it happened. But as soon as it happened, I had all my family calling me on the phone and everyone blowing me up. And then not long after, I had some buddies show up to the house because it was actually on my birthday too. So they were coming down for my birthday also.
Oh, wow. That's a birthday present.
Yeah, right? So then they showed up and, we hung out, had a good time, celebrated a little bit. And then not long after, my parents got home, and they were stoked. Mom had some tears of joy. It was a proud moment.
What so getting traded especially when you're that low in the minors. So obviously, like, you were still an A ball at the time of being traded. What was that like for you? Like, did you even see anything coming? Like, or was it one of those like just totally caught you off guard?
It definitely caught me way off guard, and it happened too because we didn't have a season in 2020. So 2021, right before spring training, like the teams are making some cuts. You know what I mean? So I mean, I hadn't been in the facility in a long time, and it's not like I was a top 5 rounder. You know what I mean? So I would imagine I don't know. I was worried that my name was somewhere on the chopping block. You know what I mean? So then, sure enough, about a month before spring training, I get a call saying it was an unrecognized number. It was an unknown number, so I declined it, thinking it was a telemarketer. And then
Fair.
So and so from the Cubs, like, give me a call when you get a chance. And I said, oh boy, here we go. So I go ahead and I call him back, and he goes, "Yo, Zach, so this probably isn't what you expected to hear on your Sunday, but and I'm like, I'm preparing myself for it." And he's like, "But you were actually just traded." I was like, "Oh, did it close out?"
No, you're good. Keep going.
My bad.
We lost our guy Ed for a second. It's all good.
No, we lost me for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So I got a call, and he's like, "Yes, this probably isn't what you expected to hear on your Sunday, but you were just traded." So it was immediate relief. And then I was like, once I like gathered myself for a sec, he was like, I was like, "Where to?" And he's like, "The Boston Red Sox." And then after that, I was super excited because I grew up a Red Sox fan. So yeah, I was super stoked to get traded to the Red Sox. Caught me way off guard. Because like I said, I was seeing guys that I knew with the Cubs getting released. So when I got a call not long after that, the heart sank a little bit. But I was definitely relieved to find out that I was traded, not released, and definitely very stoked that I was traded to the Red Sox.
So you're from Daytona Beach. How did you become a Red Sox fan?
So it's a weird story. So when I was young and I was like getting into baseball, I mean, I'd played years before, but like actually getting into watching like the MLB and whatnot.
Right, right.
MVP 04, the
Oh,
video.
yeah.
Oh, with Manny Ramirez on the cover.
And then just always chose the Red Sox. Always played as the Red Sox because they were the best team in the game, obviously. And so then, when I start watching baseball with my dad, I want to watch the Red Sox. I'd want to watch those same guys that I was playing with on the game. And then just took it and ran with it. I think like that year, my parents started getting me, Red Sox stuff for Christmas, and then it just ended up being a Red Sox fan after that. And it was die hard every year. I was watching them, tracking them all year. So I mean, it was probably definitely a very different story than most people. But yeah, that's how I became to be a Red Sox fan.
Did you grow up playing baseball, or were you like a multi-sport guy, and then you ended up you were best at baseball, and that's what you ended up going with?
I definitely mostly played baseball. I think I played like one or two seasons of basketball. I remember playing one season of like flag football, and that's really about it. Other than that, it was just baseball. I mean, that was because that was the thing I was best at. Wasn't any good at basketball. I was decent at football, but still a lot better at baseball. So I mean, of course, I had more fun doing what I was better at. So we just stuck with baseball from there on out.
You got to experience spring training in two different states. Now, the Cubs, they're in Arizona, and the Red Sox are in Florida. Obviously, you might be a little more biased to Florida, being from Florida. I get that. But what was the biggest difference for you with spring trainings, like one being in Arizona, one in Florida? Like, what is like the big differences between the two?
Well, like you said, I'm definitely biased because here I can have my car and it's just a half a day trip to get down here. But as far as like the big differences between the two, so spring training in Florida, the travel's kind of crazy because there's definitely longer trips. In Arizona, everything's within like an hour, hour and a half, all the different facilities. So the travel's definitely much better out there. Um, and then the weather, I would say like that time of year, it's pretty chilly in the morning, and then by the time the sun comes up and everything, it's like that dry heat. I don't know are you guys up in Boston?
Yeah,
New Hampshire. Yeah.
I lived in Arizona though.
Yeah. So the dry heat.
Lived in Tempe. Yep.
It's something, dude. It's way different than the Florida heat, and I'll take Florida heat every day of the week. It's just
That's the thing. People say, "Oh, it's a dry heat. It's not that bad." 120 degrees is still 120 degrees. I don't care how dry it is.
Like in Florida, I'm okay with a little sweating. You're gonna sweat. It's automatic. You go to Arizona, you might not sweat, but like, dude, your eyes are drying out, like your nose, your throat, your mouth is drying out. I'm not a fan of all that.
Did you ever have that experience where you leave your house for 5 minutes and you come back inside and you have like a headache and you're just feeling disgusting and you don't realize that you've dehydrated just by being out there for a few minutes?
Yeah, I've definitely had that. Especially like first thing in the morning, man. You go out to like take the dog out or something, wherever you have to go outside for, and you like didn't really drink water or anything. Yeah, you'll definitely notice it. You'll definitely notice it right away.
I grew up in the Midwest, so I'll take anything over that because you're growing up, in the Missouri area. It's like when you step outside some days, it feels like you're getting hit by a wet blanket just because the air is so wet. So I would honestly welcome dry. I know I've never lived there, but yeah. All right. So weather aside, I know we're not big. We don't really talk about weather too much on here, but just because it rained every single day in Worcester this past year, there was a rain out almost every day. It was ridiculous. But I want to go towards the baseball side of things for you now. You obviously missed this past year, starting a rehab down at the complex. What has your day-to-days, I guess, even shooting back to during the regular season this past year, what was your day-to-day looking like? And I guess what kind of like where were you at like in regards to like by month 3, 6, like what milestones did you hit throughout the season that you were pretty proud of hitting?
So I mean, I had surgery April 18th. So for 6 weeks after that, I was in the brace, and there really wasn't much I could do in the brace besides like. So early on, I wasn't even allowed to sweat with the stitches in. So basically, I wasn't allowed to do anything. It was walk inside, get whatever needed to be tended to with my arm, get that done. Take a shower because I had someone there to like wrap up my arm and everything so it wouldn't get wet, and then take it back to the hotel. But then yeah, after 6 weeks, that was for 2 weeks while the stitches were in, and then I had the brace on for 6 weeks. Once the brace came off, that's when I could start like some light mobility stuff. And I think it was like month 2 or 3 when I started like actually lifting. So then that added another little layer to my day. I'd come in, do my rehab, do like it was like a really light lift at the time, and then that was about it. And then I forget what month or what week mark we started the plyos, but it started off as like kind of more like shoulder strengthening stuff. We had a lot of shoulder strengthening stuff, a lot of that. So hopefully the shoulder's bulletproof after this. Um, but yeah, so it started mixing in a lot of that stuff, a lot of plyos, one-handed stuff, like kind of like drops, like the weighted ball drops and whatnot, building up the decelerators. Um, and then it was pretty much just that until we started like actually like throwing plyos. And then when we started that, even then it was pretty much the same routine. I'd come in, do rehab, do some activation, go do my throwing, whatever that was. It started off, it was like 10 throws. It was like nothing. Do my throws, go in, do more rehab, then go to the weight room and do whatever my lift was. And then I think in October, I think October was when I started like actually throwing a baseball. So I've been throwing for a couple months now, and that's pretty much been the routine from then until now.
So I did want to follow up on that, and you had mentioned, I think off air, that you're rooming with Taylor Broadway, a guy who also just had Tommy John surgery not too long ago. And we had him on this podcast, want to say a month or two ago, and he was fresh off of the Tommy John. It was we probably had him on like 3 weeks after he had it. And he mentioned some things that I guess people might not really think about, including myself, is that the toll that he knew was going to take on his mental health once the season got there, like rolled around, that he's like, I can't be out on the field up in Portland, Worcester, wherever he was going to be. He's like, I just can't do that. And it's going to set in at some point. So shout out to the Red Sox for putting him with a guy like you that already has been through that, and that you might be able to, which I don't know if you have or have not, but just like kind of shown him some tips, like maybe just some things to just like not, get as down as what, he was kind of describing as like, it's probably going to be like pretty hard to like be sidelined like that. So my question to you is, did it ever, so obviously having the surgery in April, and then you weren't able to pitch obviously the entire year. Did it ever set in at all? Like, was your like the mental side of things? Was it tough on you at all for that?
Yeah, I found myself in a little bit of a hole. Still when the brace was on, I think, but the way I described, like, because I went home for a day when I was going through it a little bit, and like the way I explained it to my parents was, for the longest time, I mean, training, throwing, lifting, running, all that stuff was like my identity. Wake up, that's what I'm worried about for the day until I go to sleep. You know what I mean? It's consumed my life since I was 5 years old. Then you take all that away from me. It's like, now who am I? What do I do? I don't know what to do. Uh, so I mean, it looking back on it, that's how I see it now. You know what I mean? But in the moment, I didn't really realize it, and I was definitely in a little bit of hole from it. And I noticed once I was allowed to lift, and once I was able to do more things, that's when I slowly kind of came out of that hole. But no, yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a struggle, and it's one of those things where it's like you don't really realize that down about it until you're out of it. You know what I mean? And it was definitely hard too, like watching some of the games here. Like it kind of sucks because it's like it'll be a year before I'm in a game. You know.
Was there anything that helped you cope with it? Anything that you started doing that wasn't necessarily lifting or running? Things that you like? Did you read? Did you watch movies? What were you doing with yourself during that time?
I did a lot of fishing, believe it or not. That was something that I used to do a lot when I was probably in high school. It was when I went on my whole fishing heyday. And I mean, playing in college and stuff, I didn't really have time for it. So it's kind of like a lost hobby of mine. But yeah, so I brought a pole down with me, and then once I was cleared to fish, which I think was like after 8 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks is when I was allowed to fish. I was going 4 or 5 times a week. I'd get out of baseball. I started going to school again, so I'd do some homework, and then off to fish until 9 o'clock, and then I'd go home, sleep, wake up, do it again. That's how I entertained myself until I eventually got bored of fishing again. And I was back to lifting and back to running and whatnot.
Yeah. What were you studying in school? Like what classes?
Right now I'm in business management.
So
you at Jacksonville still?
No, so they don't do online school.
Okay.
Like I think they offer online classes, but you still have to be like a student, like on campus. They don't do like the remote classes or whatnot. But fortunately, my dad works at Embry-Riddle. It's in Daytona, so I was able to.
I do want to. I had another baseball question to follow up with you. Before the injury, you had a little taste of Red Sox minor leagues. You got to pitch in Greenville and in Portland before you got hurt. So coming over from the trade, it was post-COVID. Obviously, you didn't pitch in 2020. So coming over, you get your taste in Greenville and in Portland. What are some takeaways you have from, I guess, just getting the feet wet a little bit and being able to pitch in the Red Sox organizations? Like anything from like, how it differentiated from the Cubs system, or just anything that comes to mind?
World class. The Red Sox are a world class organization. Like the Cubs, I mean, they treated us well. I don't have any bad things to say, but the Red Sox definitely do it better. And both affiliates that I was at, we got taken care of very well. Facilities were great. The fans were great. The crowds were great. You can tell like Red Sox fans show up to even the minor league games. But everything about them was awesome. Great experiences in both. Greenville is amazing, beautiful place. I don't know if you've ever been.
Oh yeah,
highly recommend it. Greenville's amazing. I know you guys are up in the Northeast. I'm sure you've been to Portland.
Yeah,
Portland, yeah.
Very nice city. But yeah, no, great organization there, man. They really take care of us.
So going back to your season with Greenville, I'm not gonna just throw the numbers out there or anything. You had a really good season there. You were striking out. What do we have here? 12.1 batters per 9 innings. Just a ton of strikeouts. You were the Red Sox. You're also the Red Sox minor league pitcher of the month for July. That's not like just like a website or something like that. It was actually for the organization. I was just wondering what that season was like for you, because your numbers were good prior to that too, but it wasn't as substantial, and it just seems like you were a strikeout machine that year. So what were you doing that year in high A in 2021? What was pitching there like?
I had my eyes opened a lot because in the beginning of that season I struggled. I struggled big time. It was like a command thing. So I was walking a lot of guys, and then if you can't throw multiple pitches for strikes, then you get predictable. You can only throw a fastball for a strike. So if it looks like a strike, it's a fastball. Hitters are all over it. So if you walk, then I get predictable, and then they're all over me. But then eventually I had enough of sucking, basically. With the help of some teammates and then the pitching coach there in Greenville, Bob Kipper, they really helped my mentality that I needed, like who I needed to be on the mound. And the way Kip described it was being a prick. being on the mound. And for me, it was just being mad, like being pissed off on the mound, because then it would lock me in. And I was like ready to, you know what I mean, amped up, ready to go, like just locked in on it. Where I would say it was one of those things where it's like looking back on it, some of the best outings I've ever had in my life, I was in that zone. But I never, for some reason, put two and two together that I need to get myself, like I pitch my best when I'm in that zone. Let's get myself there every day. You know what I mean? Like
No, that's really interesting. I've because I know this at least for tennis, like the best tennis players are total psychopaths. Like because you have to, it's you versus everybody else. And I've always wondered if that's kind of similar with pitchers, like with that be a prick mentality. Do you find that that's the case that you have to that you're just kind of thinking like, well, screw everybody else, I'm gonna blow you away.
Well, it's definitely different for everybody. Like I'm sure there's some guys that, want to be calm and want to be composed up there, and then that's when they're their best. But for me, I've definitely noticed a major difference of when I'm up there confident, I'm better than you, I'm gonna beat you. Like screw you for even getting in the box. Like having that mentality, like helped me tenfold. And it was 2021 where I really learned that. And then that's where, like, if you're looking at the numbers, you can see like where things kind of started to shift, and where I started actually turning into a really good year was when I kind of came to that realization.
Is that a hard mentality to get into for you? Because you seem like a very nice, well spoken guy. Like is that tough to be to switch that on?
Well, okay. So in 2022, it kind of had trouble getting into that zone. But in 21, once I found it, it took some practice. But I mean, dude, it was like flipping a switch. As soon as I heard my name in the bullpen, I would get like 2 or 3 throws to get my arm loose, and I'd get down. And as soon as the catcher got down, dude, I was locked in, ready to go. It was like flipping a switch, and I was a prick. It was easy in 21, and then 2022, I kind of had trouble getting there, and I think it was because my arm was barking. You know what I mean? So like, if you're going out there
Yeah.
with a hurt wing, you're not going to be the most confident guy. But yeah, so that's where I was at. And 2021, dude, it was easy actually to flip a switch.
You know what's weird about this is because I was actually going to ask you this question, but you're leading me right into it, because me and Ed have joked about, and we I joked a little bit with AJ Politi this past year because he's a very like calm and a very like quiet, like it's not a loud guy.
Soft spoken. He's soft spoken.
Very soft spoken, but then he's got that weird switch, and it's like he can flip it so like almost like as good as anybody else I've seen in minor league ball, that can just like go out there and be confident as hell and go out in the ninth inning and close any game that he needs to. So I was just looking at your numbers, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it seems like you've always been a reliever. You've never really started going back to your college days. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I had one start, and
Yeah, that's what I was seeing. Just one.
yeah. See the numbers on it?
I didn't see the exact. It was at Daytona your last year, correct?
There's a
I didn't see the numbers.
Bullpen. It was not good.
Okay, so
Out of the bullpen helps that mentality. I was always able to, if it's like a hey, get going, I'm way better than having a whole week to think about it.
you're just like
That's really interesting.
I'm literally like you're describing though like a guy that's like, I feel like you're like just destined to be a closer with that like mindset, because like I feel like we even had Jonathan Brandon from the system, and he kind of felt that I kind of gathered that the same thing from him. It's like he was closing games in Greenville or Salem, I think, this past year, and he was saying the same things. And I'm like, you did get some saves in 2021 in Greenville, but is that something you'd be like open to doing? Like maybe once you work your way back and then you start to settle into a role again, it's like I can close games and I know it.
100%. That's what I was my entire career, high school and college at both Daytona State and Jacksonville. I was a closer. So I mean, I feel like that position or that role has suited me best, because especially coming in like high leverage situations, how can you not be amped up? like, you know what I mean? And me being amped up makes me locked in. So it's like I've always thrived best in that situation. So I mean, yeah, definitely. I'd love to be a closer my entire career. 100%.
All right, Ed. I have a couple more baseball related questions if you had something that you wanted to get into.
I do have a non-baseball related question for you. And if you don't want to answer it, that's totally okay. But on your Twitter page, the first thing, it just says R.I.P. Chester Leon Bryant. And I was just wondering who that was.
That was my grandpa. I was very close with him, and he unfortunately passed away just before my senior year. And yeah, that's who that was, and it's somebody that I've always like kind of. He got me into baseball. He had a huge role in definitely where I'm at today.
Yeah, was he? So he was a big baseball fan.
I mean, he was just a sports fan. He loved all sports. But the connection him and I had was definitely built around baseball.
So I am I was chatting with you a little bit off air. So we had just got done speaking with Brian Abraham, and I am curious, like, on some things from a guy, especially like you, that was at the complex this past year. There was a lot of turnover in the Red Sox organization, whether it was, I mean, just alone in Worcester, I knew there was like 3 guys that had turned over, and they've brought in a ton of guys for like Justin Willard with pitching. They brought in Body from Driveline, Kyle Body, I think that's his name. Bodie, I'm not sure, but they brought, the founder of Driveline came in as an advisor. That obviously Craig Breslow, former relief pitcher himself, and Andrew Bailey, of course, and as the pitching coach. So what have you thought as being a pitcher in the system? What are your thoughts on them adding a ton of guys with a lot of experience in the pitching world?
Truthfully, I like the direction we're going, especially with a lot of the Driveline guys getting added. Because in 2020, I actually went to Seattle to train in Driveline. And the guy who was like my specific trainer, like the guy that I worked with every day, Devin Rose, he works for us now. So he's here. So that's pretty cool. And then, I mean, just obviously going out there to spend all that money to go to Driveline, I'm a big believer in Driveline. And it helped me a ton. So I'm a big believer in it. So I love seeing us kind of go in that direction. And I think it's definitely a shift towards kind of like the new era of baseball. Not to say that what we had before was not that at all, but we're just adapting. I feel like getting new, and you know what I mean. Things are going to resonate with different people. You know what I mean. So it's always good to get some new ideas flowing.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear from guys like yourself that actually are pitchers in the system with now a guy that's running the show that he was literally an MLB journeyman, like bullpen arm. So like, but he was a very successful one too, though. I don't mean that like in a negative way, like a journeyman, but he did play at quite a few places. But it is interesting to hear from guys that are coming up through the system that their philosophy is kind of changing a little bit as compared to what it used to be. And like you said, it's not like it used to be this horrible thing, but it's adapting or dying, I feel like, in baseball now. And I know that the guy that they just added came over from Premier Pitching, and the Woo Sox bullpen coach, Noah Junis, and he's a very like analytically driven coach that's going to help out the guys in Worcester this next year. So I know it's a very different from what they had in place before. So I have one more baseball related question before I dive in. I need to name this, Ed. I like my random like one-offs. I need to name that. I got to find out what I'm going to name that, but I do have some random questions for you at the end. But you preluded to this early in the episode that you're targeting May, that you want to all right, I'm just going to let you talk because I don't want to put words in your mouth. But 2024, you look at it, you're not cleared yet. I know you said you were doing some throwing, some distance. I think you were throwing at distance right now, but obviously not cleared for game action, anything like that right now. But what does your ideal 2024 look like in regards to your comeback?
So ideally, no setbacks. I come back by the date that I'm supposed to be cleared for games, which would be April 18th. No, May 18th. Come back by May 18th. Out of Fort Myers by June, because obviously I'd start down here. Off to Salem, a week or two in Salem, week or two in Greenville, back up to Portland. Hopefully, not take long to prove myself there. End up in Worcester, and if I'm rolling, who knows? I would say that if I could write the script personally for how my 2024 goes, that's what I would write.
Got to shoot for the stars, man. It's not like don't aim too low.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's good. Ed, any final baseball related questions before I go to some random ones?
Yeah, I do have one other question, and it's not you don't have to go into like excruciating detail. I'm just sort of curious. How long were you trying to pitch through an injury in 2022? Like, and what happened to make you realize, okay, this might be something, like I have to get this taken care of?
So throughout a season, man, I'm sure you guys know this, but you're gonna have arm pain.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And when it first started for me, it probably started a month or two. Probably closer to 2 months before it finally shut me down. But it started off as just something like a little pesky if my elbow didn't feel right, I tried to pitch through it, just kept dealing with it, and it just progressively got worse over time. It got to the point where I'd wake up and my arm would just be locked. Like I wouldn't be able to bend it. You know what I mean? So I'd have to force it straight or force it bent. And for whatever, I just dealt with it. Because by the time that was when I'd wake up. So by the time I'd get to the field and start throwing, by that point, me moving it around is greased it up enough to where it's okay, I guess I'm good to throw. Then I'd throw and it'd feel decent. And then, I'd pop some paint off and put enough of Red Hot on it, like icy hot, to where the thing's numb, and I'd, let it rip. And then I'd go out there and I'd be throwing just as hard as, I have all year. So I'd be like, okay, I guess I'm fine. I just got to continue to pitch through it. But then eventually it got to the point where, my second to last outing was in Hartford, and it's 96. It was brutal all week. My arm was. So finally, my name's called to pitch. I go in. I'm 96, 98. So I'm like, I guess I'm fine. I guess I'm good. I'm tripping about nothing. But then the next day, locked. Luckily, I didn't have to pitch again that week because my arm was totaled at that point. But still didn't want to say anything because I, had faith that it would get better for some reason. And then,
well, we can't make the club in the tub. That's the expression that I would always hear. You gotta pitch through it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we go back to Portland. It was a couple days later. I pitch again, and I go out there and I'm 90, 93. So one or two batters in, call time, pitching coach comes out, and he's like, dude, are you okay? He's mad at me. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you going to throw any fastballs? I'm like, those are all fastballs. And he's like, then he was mad at first, and he got real serious. He's like, dude,
oh my God.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I'm fine. He's like, okay. He goes in, I finish the inning, I go into the dugout, head coach, pitching coach are both waiting for me. And they're like, dude, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing, I'm good. And they're like, no, you were throwing 90, 93. Something's wrong. You need to tell us. I was like, my elbow's been sore a little bit, but I'm good. And they're like, go talk to the trainers. So we talked to the trainers, shut it down. Rest a couple weeks, try to throw, didn't feel better. Rest a couple weeks, try to throw, didn't feel better. And then finally, at that point, it was just send me down to Fort Myers so I can get some imaging done and hopefully get some answers. And then at that point, I think it was a partial tear at that point, but they hoped that giving it a normal off-season rest or resting from that. So that was in sometime in August. Resting from then until when I would normally start throwing to get ready for spring training would help it, and I'd be good after that. I wasn't, so I came back down. So I came back down here early to try to get it better and try to get with some professional trainers, see what we could do. Finally, they got it good enough to where I could pitch in a game. Pitched in one spring training game. Felt fine during the game. Next day, man, back to how it was in season, just lost. So then, again, me being me, I didn't say anything until the day before I was supposed to pitch again. And I told them, I was like, listen, I don't know if I'll be able to pitch tomorrow. I think I need another day. And they were like, why? And I told them, I was like, my elbow's not feeling great. So like, okay, let's go talk to the trainers. Got me another MRI. And at that point, the tear was just worse. So like, all right, let's go ahead and start reaching out to some surgeons and see who wants to do it.
I'm sure that you're looking back at it and it's like, why didn't I do something about it sooner? But I also it's like, you just try to keep pushing it off and maybe it'll get better on its own. Do you look back at how like you handled that and it's kind of like, I would have done it differently here? Or do you feel like you needed to do it that way?
I mean, hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
So, I mean, looking back on it, I definitely don't blame myself for how I handled it. I should have been able to tell the difference between because I mean, every pitcher's had it to where it's like your arm's a little tender. You know, it could be hurt for a month, but then it goes away and you start to feel fine. You know, or it's never anything serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's
myself.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame myself for how I handled it. So I probably wouldn't. If it happened again next year, I'd probably treat it the same way. Honestly, I mean, it's because it's in the moment. You're just like, no, it'll get better. And then I'd go out there just as hard. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm fine. And then it'd be a little sore. It's like, okay, I'll just get treatment. I'll just put some more red hot on it.
Right.
Rub some dirt on it.
No, I'm asking because I'm the exact same way. So I totally understand it. It's when you hear about people needing to get elbow surgery, sometimes it's something like what you described, where it's kind of this lingering process. But then other times people are like, "Oh, I heard this pop, and I kind of knew." And it's just kind of interesting to me the difference between those two.
Yeah, and some guys it happens over time. Some guys it's just one pitch. They feel it pop, something's up. You know.
It's a flashback to Zach Kelly this past year. It's like he knew right away. It was like one pitch, boom.
Yeah.
And,
right?
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Tommy John, but he did need the ulnar, what was it, the relocation surgery on his nerve.
Yeah, the nerve came out. He had one of those braces put in years before, and it came out, and they had to reattach it. And he ended up being able to come back in September, but it was a process getting there. And you just, I would imagine, especially for someone like you, who that's your livelihood, like that's got to be a real stressful experience.
It had its moments, that's for sure. But you know, we're in a better spot now, and super optimistic about everything coming back. You know, I'm in a great spot, and I'm just excited to get the ball rolling and see what happens this year. You know.
Oh, I bet you must be chomping at the bit for May to just come back, to just come in May, June, just start firing at batters again.
It's going to be a good one for sure. I'll be the best version of myself 100% this year. I'm excited.
I love that outlook. And all right, so won't talk about the injury anymore. I know that you're ready to be past it, but I got some random here. I am going to think of a name eventually. We'll probably get that in a future episode. But my first question to you is, off the baseball field, what is a guilty pleasure of Zach Bryant?
Oh man, so I'd like to think I eat very healthy, but I always finish my day with dessert, man, every day. So if I lied and said anything else, some of my teammates that listen to this would call me out on it. But you know, the ones that know me know I love dessert and I love crumble cookies. So guilty.
Oh, good pick.
Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure, 100%.
So my next question here is, I saw your photo from 2022. I think it was when down in the complex, when the Red Sox do their team photos or the solo photos. I saw you had quite a bit of lettuce going on. I think that was early 2022. You don't right now. Will you be bringing back the lettuce once you're cleared to pitch?
No, never again. Yeah, dude, that was something I wanted to do. Like my entire life, I would try growing my hair out, and then I would get sick of it, and I would cut it. and then I would try growing it out again, and then I'd get sick of it and cut it. Finally, I was like, I'm committing to it. I'm gonna get through that like crappy phase where it like really doesn't look good, and just ride it out and see where we get. I did it, still didn't love it, so I think that's it. This is where I'm at from here on out. Beginning of this year, like if you see my headshot from last spring training, I had a little bit of a mullet going on, where it was a little bit longer back there, and I didn't mind that. But I think this is my best look.
Okay, I was gonna say 2022, a lot of lettuce. 2023, yeah, like you said, you had a little something going on back there, but all right. Just curious about that. My next question. Oh, what was that?
I said the flow is not coming back.
All right. Fair. I talked to you about this off air, but I have to ask it now again. Obviously, you were on the Tyler O'Neill lifting schedule going on, and we had a little setback due to some surgery going on, but you're obviously gonna get back fully cleared this year. Will you be bringing back the Zach Bryant fitness page on Instagram?
I don't know how much I'll ever post on that again. We'll see. I doubt it, but truthfully, man, I tried the whole like being on top of social media and posting a lot thing. I tried it with that page. It's just I guess I'm not into it enough to keep it going. I don't know. So I tried getting some like remote coaching thing going on with some people back home for people that are just trying to lose weight or even like younger athletes. So if that gets rolling, I might use it as a kind of a platform to show off like the people that I've helped and like their transformations. But as far as like what I would used to post on there, I don't know if I'll ever do that again.
Okay. My next question, I just thought of it on the fly because of you told me who your roommate is in Taylor Broadway. When we had him on the show, he said his guilty pleasure was video games and that he would be filling up some time, that he's got on his hands this next year with some video games and possibly streaming that on like a Twitch or whatever. Is this news to you?
No, he plays Fortnite all the time.
Okay.
Who's the next one? I can hear him screaming out call outs.
Are you not a video game guy at all?
Okay, so a little bit. I dabble. If I get bored enough, I'll turn it on. But I'm definitely not a play for hours kind of guy. Like if I play Fortnite, I'll get very into the one game I play. So when I die, I'm annoyed and I stop. I have to take a break. So then I'll stop for like 20, 30 minutes and then I'll be like, all right, let's play again. It's okay. The same way I am with golf, where it's like I go out and like I'm excited to go. I suck. I hate golf. I'm borderline about to sell my clubs. But then the next day I want to play again.
Yeah. Freaking always sucks you back in, man. Always.
Video games.
Okay. I got second to last question here. I don't know if are you a country music guy at all?
As of recently.
And so why is your favorite artist Zach Bryant?
Where did I say that?
No, it was a dad joke because you guys almost have the same name. But my question, I feel like I'm old now, man. I'm on the right side of 30 still, I promise. But
legitimately thought I might have said that somewhere because he was my favorite artist.
Wait, is he?
He was. I think
okay.
Tyler took the number one spot for me.
I think I may have put that to our buddy Chris. I said, "Oh, I got Zach Bryant coming on." He's like, I don't know if it was a joke or not, but he did ask me. He's like, the country artist. He's like, seriously? It's like, dude, it's got a T on the end. It's not like Zach Bryant doesn't have a T on the end. But I don't know. I had to say it. It was a dad joke. That's on me. Hand up. But that is.
I'm surprised you've never asked me if my favorite movie is Edward Scissorhands.
Fair. That's fair. It's probably coming on the list at some point. All right. My last one off here is the most important. I'm coming off of a great episode where our guest gave the correct answer. So I have some faith in you because you are a Florida man. All right. You're hungry. You want some lunch. Let's say this is you're in a I know you're a healthy guy and you're into your physique, but let's say this is a cheat meal, right? So it's lunchtime. You want fast food for the cheat meal, and it's got to be fried chicken. Has to be. So it's either got to be strips or a chicken sandwich. Has to have a drive-through. Every single option in America is available to drive to. Where?
Canada too. Screw it.
Sure. So where are you going?
For fried chicken, Raising Cane's, 100%.
Okay.
Good pick.
Is there another place that's similar to Raising Cane's that you like?
For chicken?
Yeah.
I mean, Chick-fil-A, for sure.
Is there another place that's similar to those that you like?
For chicken? Zaxby's.
All right, there we go. All right, we got it. Third try. All right.
Sure.
You do realize though that Zaxby's sauce is like up here. Cane sauce is good, but it's like a little down here.
I think you got that in the wrong order. Cane's is up there for sure. I got Zaxby's down there.
I like the Chick-fil-A sauce the most. I've got my refrigerator has not just the regular Chick-fil-A sauce. We've got the Polynesian sauce too. We're all over that stuff now that it's in stores. It's great.
I'm a big fan of the Chick-fil-A barbecue sauce. They got some very.
I haven't had that one yet.
They got some very underrated barbecue sauce. It's good stuff.
Well, I know what I'm checking out next time I go to one of several Chick-fil-A's in my neighborhood.
There you go. But yeah, no, man, I got Cane's over Zaxby's.
Okay, fair. I am going to defend the wall a little bit here for on you guys. I don't know if I can go to a Chick-fil-A, to a Cane's, to a Zaxby's, a PDQ, like any of these places. You ever had PDQ, by the way, in Fort Myers?
Yeah, we have one down here.
John Schreiber has put it on a pedestal, and I have to get it when I go there next month. So, but how? It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably eat Chick-fil-A before I eat that for sure. Chick-fil-A is, but it's so good. I'm not gonna say it's not good.
Zach Kelly also hyped it up quite a bit, so it's on my list. But
you have to give it another chance.
I don't know how you guys can go to a Chick-fil-A and get their barbecue sauce and not the actual sauce that is named after the restaurant. That is wild to me.
I don't know. I think it's like because we had a Chick-fil-A right next to my house growing up, and I just always got the Chick-fil-A sauce. For as long as I can remember, I always got the barbecue sauce.
Okay.
So now it's just like Chick-fil-A is not the same unless I have it with the barbecue sauce. I don't know. That's my go-to.
Fair enough. I mean, I have asked everybody that's come on the show this question. I am up to 4 that have said Zaxby's. Now that Brian Abraham has said Zaxby's, so I was hyped about that one. So the batting average is low, but what was that?
It's improving.
I couldn't hear Zach.
That was Abe's first answer for fried chicken. He said Zaxby's.
I think it will. Ed, be the judge on that. I think he said he just wanted to answer it out of the box, but that's what he gave.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely his answer.
Yeah. So once I get down to the complex, it's Alex Pinellas, Blaze Jordan, and Brian Abraham over at Zaxby's. I'll gladly join them. But Zach, you gave us like 50 minutes of your time, man. We appreciate you coming on, and we might be seeing you around next month at some point. But yeah, honestly, looking forward to you getting back on the field and everything. But thank you for joining us.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me.